where did maybe where did the beginning, the origins of this story start for you? Like you mentioned, you kind of had an idea for it when you were 18, but where, like, what is the you looked at a thing and you're like, here's an idea. Where did that kind of happen?
I I think it's a mix of a few things. I I worked at a full service gas station when I was younger, and so the night I would closing shift, and the nights would be absolutely dead. And I remember it was I don't know if it was right after I read Ender's Game, but at least a couple years after, sometime in that time frame. I just loved that whole kind of simulation idea and stuff like that, and that really what launched me into a story of I wanted to do something sort of like that. But I mixed a lot of things I enjoyed at the time into it. I really enjoyed the Halo games. I threw those, kind of the elements of those into it. I loved I don't even know. I loved the movie Independence Day. That was me, and that's like still a core movie to me and my group of buddies. So it's there's elements of that went into it, and then I must have already started Wheel of Time because I definitely also love kind of just that naive, Wheel of Time, Randolph Thor's that naive farm boy, innocent in all regards, and just gets everything thrown on him. I love the idea of something like that, but meshing it with our world, kind of a naive, innocent. My story as a college age kid from Earth, from our time, and bringing just this universe balancing scales thrown onto their shoulders. And another influence would have been Harry Potter because again, that one's kind of intermixed with our world. That was always my appeal to that series. I found it to be phenomenal writing, of course, but it was also just the appeal of who's to say this isn't who am I to say this isn't happening? I'm a kid that dreams big, so it's I think it's cool to think about something like this actually occurring out there in the world. So I kind of took all that stuff and just meshed it into my own little story here.
Yeah, there's something interesting about the idea, like, of the world behind the world, like the things
Yeah.
that we don't see or perceive. I think I don't know why that seems to captivate people because I agree with you. You're always like, well, what would happen if there was a doorway in that stone wall?
Yeah.
Like,
Yep.
it's just an interesting concept. I think that's one of the things about Harry Potter that makes it so magical is it's like it's this whole other, you walk through a hidden doorway and you're literally in a whole new world, you know?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And I meshed mine with the idea of space, and we
Mhm.
know so little about that out there. So it's just I felt like the possibilities were endless for me to kind of create this whole story. I've also been super interested my whole life in kind of the ancient past of Earth. The again mysteries there. We know so little about what came kind of more than
Mhm.
like 12,000 years ago. So it was just really cool. Kind of meshed the lore of my story with that and with Earth, and so it was able to allow me to have a bunch of fun with it as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I mean, it's really hard to do anything that's like 100% original these days. That's where like the idea for the stories that I'm working on, they all came from a little bit of like Star Wars, Harry Potter, Avatar: The Last Airbender, like all these different kind of things, and then over time it just becomes and especially, those things that you experienced when you were a kid, that they naturally end up in your stuff. It's hard to not do that.
No,
And
of
so I think it's
course,
great.
yeah. I mean, I hear all the time. I forget what it is. It's either Dune has been so popular lately, and I've been seeing a lot of things on like social media and stuff. I forget if it's Wheel of Time's just a ripoff of Dune or Dune's a ripoff of Wheel of Time, and it's like these books they're yes, they have similarities, but they're so different in so many elements as well. It's like
Hmm.
this is what we do. We have things that we gravitate towards and pulls us in, and we make little pieces here and there, and we mesh them into our story. I'm sure there. If my series ever blew up huge one day, there'd be people who would say, "Oh, this is just a ripoff. It's a space ripoff of Wheel of Time," and it's like it's so much more than that. But yes, no, there is certain elements that are
Hmm.
linked to it because it's what I liked, it's what I enjoyed, it's my heart's into putting those elements into the story. So
Well, and there's aspects of it too that, like, there's the hero archetype. and I think a lot of people sometimes go, "Well, you're ripping off this and this and this." I'm like, "Well, no, I mean, the hero is the hero. Like, there's really, I mean, you can put the hero in different situations, maybe you can add different parts of their personality, but at the end of the day, their journey is their journey. I mean, it's hard to change the hero journey. It
Yeah,
kind
for
of
sure.
just is. And so it's that balance between the like stereotype and the archetype kind of thing.
Yep. No,
Yeah.
no, for sure. I mean, they've been writing hero stories since the dawn of our time, basically. So it's
Hmm.
you can't really say it's if it's a ripoff. We've all been ripping it off for thousands of years.
Hmm. Yeah, I have. I've been joking a lot recently that I was super destined. There's no way I was doomed to be a nerd because when I was, between the ages of like 8 and 12, we had all the Lord of the Rings movies, we had the Star Wars prequels, we had Harry Potter, the
Mm.
X-Men movies came out, like all of these, Pokemon was created. So
Yeah.
all this stuff came out at my most formative time. And I was
Yeah.
like, I was doomed. There's no way I was
Well,
getting out of that.
I think that's a major chunk of kind of our age group. You know,
Hmm.
it's. I think that's why you see so many 30 and 40 year olds today that are just they're in love with science fiction and fantasy, and I think that's a big part of it. It played a huge part of our childhoods. Basically, it was
Yeah.
kind of really the best content that was out. You know, we didn't have social media back then to see all this different. That was the content we gravitated towards.